Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. Today I'm recording and I'm actually standing because usually I sit down and sometimes I feel my voice go flat a little bit. So I'm still saying some really good stuff, but I can't maintain the energy. So I'm going to try something new where at least I can try and keep my energy quite high so I can keep you engaged for a bit longer. At the same time, I'm really excited about making this episode because it's been a few days since I've made one. So I've had things bubbling on the inside and just feeling like, oh God, I really need to go and make an episode because there's just so much going on. So today we're going to be talking about root cause, or at least dealing with the root cause within your relationship. So you're not having the same conversation over and over again, because this is one of the things that I find within a sexless relationship, that over a period of time, you have the same conversation, and because you're not dealing with the root cause of the problem, she becomes very guarded on not being able to go into those conversations knowing that there's no real resolution to your relationship problems. So she's saying one thing, you're saying another thing, both of you are right, but you're just not getting to the point where you're actually dealing with the root cause of the problem. So, and again, a lot of it is that the conversations that you have start becoming you dealing with the sort of the symptoms, but not really going to the actual problem. And the first time I saw this, when I was growing up, when my sister, she 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 was allergic to fish, but nobody knew from her family that we'd never heard of being somebody being allergic to fish. So it just so happened that we had a neighbor who, the time we were struggling, so they would go fishing, and then every time they bring fish, loads of it, they would give us some fish so we can have something to eat. So what would happen is that my mom would cook, and then she would eat it, and then she would get these sort of reactions to her body. She would get like a rash and so on. And they took her to the doctor, and the doctors misdiagnosed and said, "Oh, she's got eczema. So maybe you need to give her this rub, so the ointment." So all of a sudden, we would do this, and she would have more fish, and then she would continue. So we'd end up in this cycle of continuously, sort of every few weeks, she would have a real bad situation, and then would rub the ointment and so on. And we thought, oh, it wasn't working. And luckily, we had a cousin who had eczema as well, and it seemed to be that whatever they were doing with her was working, and I wasn't working with my sister. So all of a sudden, we was like, there's something wrong here. There's something else that's happening. That, and again, the way it was affecting her skin was a little bit different as well. So we thought there must be something else that's going on here. And well, not me, my parents had something going on. I was too young to know what was going on, but I could take in all what the information that was happening. So um we just, by chance, it's just happened that we were on our holidays. So our school holidays usually run over like on a month period, and on that month period, it just so happened that she went to live with my nan for a month, and throughout that time they not had fish. So she um she was okay, and she seemed to be fine. In fact, everything held, everything seemed to be good. And on the she came back, everything was fine. She has fish, and then all of a sudden it happens again. It was like, okay, there's something that is going on, something that's happening with the food. Luckily, my mom, she's okay, maybe it's something to do with the fish. So all of a sudden she stopped giving her fish, and then that problem never happened again. So my sister can eat fish, but the point was, at that point, my mom found the root cause of the problem, and it resolved how, it just made my sister's life so much better, because it was very, very difficult for her, even sleeping and so on. It was very difficult. So when it comes to conversations within your relationship, it's the same thing, that you continuously doing the wrong thing when you have those interactions, and it is hurting your relationship over and over. And there's a certain few things that will cause you to keep going down that path, and one of those is perceived judgment. And I'm calling it perceived judgment. I don't know if there's any literature out there, but it's stuff where if you're talking to somebody, especially when you're trying to deal with a problem or correcting a problem, we don't have a real good way of talking about problems. And a lot of it is is we usually take how our parents corrected our behavior, and then we try and enforce that within our relationship, and then therefore we find this real combative type situation. Instead of it being collaborative, it becomes quite judgmental when you're talking to your partner. And usually what this does is that it makes them feel that like they're not good enough. And if you ever heard your partner say, I feel like I'm never good enough for you, generally this is what's happening, that there's interactions that you're having continuously, but while you're addressing that symptom, you're really not addressing the root cause of the problem. And a large chunk of it comes back down to, as you are dealing with the problem or trying to correct behavior, you are using shame or judgment in order to do so. And again, shame and guilt, actually, sorry, it's you're using shame and guilt, like, okay, you never do this, which is what most people would do. And again, when you have those interactions, in fact, we'll, we'll transition a little bit here and go into maybe some of the tactical stuff of how you're actually going to address this. Because I mean, in terms of really what causes you to get to this point, we can dive a lot deeper with this. Just to let you guys know, the community is now open, and that's one of the things lessons I'm creating right now, where I'm going to really go and dive in deeper on this subject, where we're going to be talking a little bit more about like how to structure that conversation so that that conversation goes the way that actually deals the root cause of the problem. So, and again, it's going to be absolutely incredible. So if you want to get more information on that, how to join the community, you go to my Instagram and uh, you type in thriving_tribesmen, and then you'll be just DM me and say community on there, and they should be able to get the opportunity to join us and really start diving a little bit deeper, so that when you have these conversations, when ability of having this type of conversation, what it will do is that every time you have this conversation and you're having it wrong, she's putting more armor on not going into seduction. So when you try and seduce her, she's got no desire whatsoever into getting to desire, because she doesn't feel like eh, she's good enough. And that not feeling of good enough is incredibly difficult to transition from her feeling not good enough to her wanting to have sex with you. And it always comes down to how you're conversating around some of the problems that you're having, especially when there's guilt and shame that is being um, produced amongst those conversations. So it becomes really important to know how tactically you can do it. So I'm going to go transition a little bit and talk a little bit on some of the words that you shouldn't be using, and then we'll, in terms of the tactical side of stuff, you join the community, we'll dive a little bit deeper. And again, the reason why I'm saying go join the community is not because I want to teach a whole blanket, like a one size fit all. There's a reason why you join the community, is that you'll get my opportunity to, for me to speak to you directly one to one, and then I will speak to you on how you have those conversations in your relationship specifically. So it's custom made to your relationship. So that's the advantage of it. So with that said, so when it comes to having these conversations, you have to know that what you're talking about in terms of, am I addressing something in the past, or am I addressing something in the present, or is that something that we are now trying to make room for? So is it, am I addressing something that could potentially happen in the future? And when you have these conversations, it's important to have that distinction, because when you say things, you would say things in a way that would bring you from judgment to collaborative. So what that means is that so if you have that conversation in some, if you just frivolously have that conversation and not have the right words for having that conversation, what tends to happen is that she'll get into that place where she feels judged, and all of a sudden there's this shame or guilt that happens, and then all of a sudden she puts that armor on, where you think you're addressing the problem, but what you're tending to do is you're armoring her or putting armor around her. So when you seduce, nothing actually happens, nothing actually lands. So it becomes important to, how do I have that conversation where she feels like you are within collaboration, and instead of, when you're in collaboration, it feels, or at least she has a sense of growth. And when you have that sense of growth, then all of a sudden it makes her want to be able to have seduction with you, or at least transition into seduction with you. So it's very important to understand that the way you approach that conversation becomes extremely important on the words that you say. So, and again, those words, just from a judgmental standpoint, most people would use words like from a present tense. Did you uh, X, so did you say whatever, whatever, stuff like that, or they'll use did you, which implies that you are responsible for. And again, a lot of it would be, like I said, it would be same thing, but will be just used in different words. Or if it was the past, have you? If it's in the future, should you? It should be something like that. And when you use those type of words, while it seems like it's just a slight words that you're using, and you're used to using it, and some of it, again, yeah, you use it because that's how your parents spoke to you, and it's left you with some feelings of not feeling good enough already. And the fact that you're within a sexless relationship is evidence for it. So oh god. So anyways, like I said, it's it and a lot of the times when you have this conversation, there's also one thing that I would want to point out, is that you don't feel good enough to be in that relationship, and therefore when you communicate, you feel that that's okay to communicate that way, and it will make you feel not good enough. But not only are you making it feel good, not good enough, but you're tapping into her past when she never felt good enough. Which then, again, this is why that armor becomes very difficult to transition into seduction. So it becomes important to understand that, okay, how do I make this collaborative, and how do I speak in such a way that it feels collaborative? So instead of us addressing this situation and her feeling worse, how do I make it things better? So one of the things is you start speaking again in a collaborative way, which I would say it, it consists of we. So we should, we if we, stuff like that. So for example, we've always had this conversation, and I would like us to look at it from a different perspective. For example, that's how I would sort of address it. And if you address things in such, so um, can we have a conversation? Can we have this conversation a little bit different? And we've always come to this point where we're fighting. I can see what I've done to make you feel upset. I can see that the way you're behaving right now is causing us to be, it's one of those things when you have this conversation like that, where you are saying we instead of you or I. When you remove, when you in, because it's sort of individualizing. So when you individualize, it's judgment is a good way of measuring it. And then when you say we, is putting yourselves together. So nobody is responsible. You're both in this situation because you just don't know. You're making it up as we go. Everybody's making up as we go. And really getting that frame of mind within the relationship is really important, because then it allows room for mistake, and not allow that mistake to getting into a place where she feels shame. So it's really, really important. And as I'm talking right now, I'm realizing that I really need to go back and read a book by a lady called Renee Brown. And I can see that there's a connection that I've just made, but I'll discuss it on a different episode. So I really, really excited to have made this conversation, or at least opened up this topic for you guys. And it's something that is going to be extremely helpful to think about, like I said, in order to really get it happening within your relationship. And I know a lot of you guys take pride in figuring this stuff for yourself. You need a sense of, uh, it gives you a sense of power in order to figure it out yourself and make it and fix it yourself. And I commend that. But at the same time, some of you guys might actually need help around this. And seeking help isn't a weakness. In fact, it's a bit of a strength, actually. And if you see some of the greatest people, and I haven't checked who won the Masters, but that guy who won the Masters, even though he was dealing the competition by himself, he's got a massive team that have helped him to get to this point. So, and what Masters in terms of the golf, so there was golf being played this weekend. I followed it a little bit, and I wanted uh, want Bryce DeChambeau to win. But anyways, the the thing is that these guys have got a team of people that are working with them in order. And I think the price was 18 million. So for him to win that 18 million, it's not like he's doing it all by himself. He's has got teams. He's got a caddy. He's got people that make sure that he's got nutrition. There's this whole host of people that are helping this guy to win this championship, and not just him. You think about, I watched the MMA, the UFC 300. One of my favorite fighters got knocked out, but that guy's got a massive team. Even though it's like an individual thing that you're dealing with, there's quite a lot of people around that person just supporting him to make them into champions. So it becomes really important to understand that in order for you to win, you're going to need to be part of a community of people that are, of one mind, and that can really lift you up when you're down. People that can get you to the place where you are stronger and can get you to a place where your relationship is empowered and amazing. So, like I said, if you want to join our community, go to thriving_tribesmen on Instagram and then just type in community and we'll give you the details on what you can do next. In fact, I'll send you a free training so you can actually understand how that all works and how the process is going to go. So thank you very much, guys. Be seeing you guys soon. Take care.